Around him were the tracks of horses and high-heeled boots, most of them clustered near the well, and Fish figured 6 or 7 horses and riders, though he didn't have enough engine in him to make an accurate count. Tom Calthrop's bay riding mare still stood in the corral in back of the ranch house, so horse theft was not the raiders' motive. But the cabin had been ransacked, so they'd been after something. But what? Cash money, probably. What little the family had. Fish took a swig of rye and then another and pondered that answer. He shook his head. Yeah, it was most likely money, but damned if he knew. Going back 2 decades, Fish Lee visited the Calthrops once or twice a year and was always given a friendly welcome and dinner and a bed for the night. He knew that in recent years, with cattle prices low, Tom barely scraped by as a rancher and money was always tight. He bred good Herefords, but they were few in number because he could no longer buy additional stock and hire punchers to work them. The boys helped and did what they could, but neither of them were really interested in ranching. Fish remembered Nancy telling him, "Jacob and Esau are readers, and readers aren't much help come roundup." At the time, she'd smiled, but he'd seen bittersweet concern in her eyes. Damn, that had been only a 6-month ago, and now the Calthrops were all dead, and the young boys being readers and not riders no longer amounted to a hill of beans. Fish Lee was short and wiry, dressed in worn-out, colorless clothes that he'd had for a long time. His battered top hat looked as though someone had stepped on it, a pair of goggles on the brim for protection against blowing sand. He had a shovel in his pack, but he didn't have the strength to bury 6 people. He had a Bible, but couldn't read the verses, and he had a Henry rifle, but no enemy in sight. In other words, as he stood in the afternoon sunlight beside his uncaring burro, he felt as useless as tits on a boar hog. "Sophie, we'll head for Thunder Creek and let the law into what's happened here," he said. "Sheriff Chance Hurd will know what to do." He read doubt in the burro's dark eyes and said, "He will. You'll see." After one last lingering look at the cabin where shadows angled across the porch where the oyas hung, Fish shook his head and said, "Oh, dear Lord in heaven, what a terrible business." He then led Sophie west toward town, walking through the bright light of day under the flawless blue arch of the Texas sky. Chapter 1. "I send you out to investigate a murder and you bring me back a cat?" Sheriff Chance Hurd said. "With all the rats we get in here, we need a cat," Deputy Sheriff Dan Caine said. "Rodent or human?" "Both, but mainly rodent. I saw one in the cell the other day that if you whittled down to middling size would still be as big as a hound dog." "Well, I guess the cat is kind of cute at that," Hurd said, eyeing the calico that sat on his desk and studied him with fixed, glowing attention. The lawman sighed. "You feed it. Now put the Kiowa back in the cell and make your report. The coffee's on the boil." "We'll need the Kiowa when we go after Jenny Calthrop and the men who murdered her family," Caine said. "The Indian is a drunk," Hurd said. "Drunk or sober, he can follow a cold trail best I ever seen," Caine said. "And we ain't following no trails, cold or otherwise," Hurd said. He was a big man with a comfortably round belly and heavy bags under expressive and cold blue eyes that gave him a basilisk stare. He pointed a thick forefinger at his deputy. "We're city. The Calthrop spread is Concho County in all ways was." Hurd's chair scraped across the jailhouse's rough pine floor as he rose and stepped to the stove. He took a couple of cups down from a shelf and poured steaming coffee into both. He handed one to Caine. "Fish says 7 riders. He thinks there were that many. He isn't sure," Caine said. "I saw the tracks, and I'm not sure either." "What did the Kiowa say?" "He says 7, maybe 8. Too many."